Over the years, cryptocurrencies have become a more appealing investment to me. Now, I still consider myself to be a student of the crypto world, which is why I don't talk about it that often on my channel and why I don't have a large investment in them. But now, with Coinbase going public, I feel like I finally have a crypto play that I can comfortably discuss on my channel and share with all of you my thoughts on this company's recent IPO. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and play the intro so we can discuss Coinbase. Hey everyone, and thanks for joining me today. My name's Matt, and before we get started here, I just need to say, not advice, don't take it as advice. If you need advice, speak to a financial advisor, but this is just for your entertainment purposes only. Also remember, if you like this video, it is a 5-cent donation for charity, and if you subscribe, that is still a 10-cent donation for charity. And I'm going to apologize in advance here if you can see my phone or if you see me looking down on it. I'm going to be in a barbecue competition this weekend, and I'm doing a practice run right now for a pork shoulder, so I just need to make sure I'm monitoring the temperatures as I make this video. And if you want to see the end result of that, just feel free to follow me on Instagram. I'll post a picture of the final result on my story later today. But anyway, back to what we all came here for, and that's to discuss Coinbase. If you're not familiar with Coinbase, it started in 2012 as a cryptocurrency brokerage as well as exchange, giving people the ability to buy and sell cryptocurrencies and hold them within an account. They are the largest cryptocurrency brokerage inside of the US as well. With them operating as an exchange, they have the ability to offer a higher level of security or a better security protocol, and they also don't have as much liquidity risk as other brokerages might have if you don't operate your own exchange. And at the end of the day, when it comes to making money, they simply make their money through a transaction fee, which I believe is around 1.5%. Now for this video, there's a few topics here that I want to cover. Of course, we'll start off with talking about the numbers here for Coinbase and how those are looking. Then we'll move on to why I've tended to stay away from cryptocurrencies in the past, but what I like about this opportunity and any potential threats that I see to this company. But as always, let's go ahead and start off here with these numbers. So as we can see here, Coinbase has a market cap of $41.93 billion. That is a very large market cap for a company that just recently hit the markets, but it's something that I felt worth pointing out because analysts do have a pretty high estimate for what this company's market cap could be. I saw one analyst estimating that this market cap could be around 100 billion around 2023. I think that's worth pointing out that in order for that to happen, the stock price of this company will have to more than double in the next 2 years. So obviously some analysts out there have some very bold predictions for this company. They currently have what I would consider an atrocious PE ratio trading at 229.56 times earnings. So a very high valuation for this company. But I think that's something we can come to expect when it comes to something like Coinbase because they're a relatively new speaking platform, especially when it comes to trading on the public markets, and there's limited competition. Sure, there's competition out there that exists, but I do think having that higher PE ratio is slightly warranted in this situation, given the minimal competition as well as how new this feature is, relatively speaking. I am very impressed though with both their revenue growth as well as their return on equity. The 143.85% is absolutely incredible for me to see. Something that I would like to see in an area that's obviously going to be very high growth and a relatively young company, one that's not even a decade old yet. Also, ROE, not something I really talk about on my channel because a lot of times I'm not as impressed with ROE, but having a 24.91% return on equity is very encouraging for me to see. Now lastly here, when we look at the quick ratio, this is something that was a little bit of a concern to me, being at only 0.29. As most of you know, or if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I like to see the quick ratios over 1, sometimes 2 or 3, depending on the company we're taking a look at here. Now, the reason why this is a little bit more concerning to me than some other companies with lower quick ratios is because they went public through a direct listing. Now, without going into the details between the difference of like a SPAC, IPO, and direct listing, when a company does go public through a direct listing, the company itself doesn't actually raise money. So if you go through a traditional IPO process like most companies do, you do receive money through going public and selling shares of your company. But through a direct listing, you basically just move the company from private to public, and the company doesn't receive any of those proceeds. Now, it's not uncommon. We do see this with other companies, like Spotify went public through a direct listing, and so did Palantir. But it is just something that I wanted to hear a little bit more information on, because with a quick ratio being so low, and then you not receiving any money through this public offering, I would like to know the thought process behind that, because cryptocurrencies is still something that faces a lot of uncertainty, or the future is a little bit hazy when it comes to cryptocurrencies and the regulations and all of that good stuff. So I feel like it would be very important for them to have a lot of cash on hand to kind of handle those downtimes or as issues might arise for them. Now, those numbers really were not all that impressive, and if anything, they were a little concerning to me when it comes to having this as an actual investment inside of my portfolio. That said, there's a few upsides with their numbers that we can see, one of them being that they are a profitable company, which is something that gives me a little bit better sleep at night, as well as analysts are projecting for their earnings to increase by over 26% in the next few years. So that is something that is encouraging for me to see, but this is one of those companies where I don't feel like the numbers really paint the full picture here for the company. Now, before I go on with that thought process, I did just want to explain why I haven't traditionally invested in cryptocurrencies. And it really comes down to the fact of I can't do my traditional analysis with things like cryptocurrencies like I can with stocks. As you see me do each week, I like to take a look at what we call more the fundamental or valuation metrics, so like your price earnings ratio, cash flow analysis, competition, micro, macroeconomic factors, things along those lines that can influence the company's performance. But when it comes to things like Bitcoin, I can't really run those same kind of analysis because there is no sales growth that we'll be taking a look at, or revenue growth, or who the competition is. A lot of this is very similar to the reason why I don't invest in gold or silver, and that's because there's a belief behind those prices that I just don't necessarily understand how that valuation comes to fruition. And that's why I generally like to invest in stocks, because it's a lot easier for me to find the fair value of a company, determine what I would want to pay for that stock, and then see what they're trading at so I can make the decision of if that number is higher or below than what I feel is a good price to pay for that company. Again, that's just something we don't have the ability to really do with cryptocurrencies, or really any commodity for that matter. So that's why my portfolios are generally made up of stocks. But with Coinbase now being a publicly traded company, I feel like this is a way for me to get more invested in the cryptocurrency world while still being able to have my traditional valuation metrics of looking at this company's performance. Because now I do have the ability to look at their customer growth, customer satisfaction rates, how much money do they receive for customers, what does the competition charge, all those things that I like to take a look at with traditional companies, I now have the ability to do, but in the cryptocurrency space. Now, that could be a curse or a blessing depending on how you want to look at it. Using my traditional metrics, though, as we can see, it's very overvalued, and even if you use an excess returns model like Simply Wall Street does, we can see that they're almost 9,500% overpriced as a stock. Now, I don't agree with that. I don't think this stock really should be trading around $3 a share. I think that would be ridiculous for this to be on the pink sheets. But overall, I think that this company still has a very rich or frothy valuation. But here's the reasons why I do like this. And as I mentioned, I can value it like a stock, and it's a way for me to look at a crypto investment, but from more of a stock perspective. I also like that they operate as both a brokerage as well as an exchange, because I feel that that can open them up to opportunities in the future where they can create additional sources of revenue instead of just being dependent on transaction fees. And also, this is one of the biggest pushes I've seen for cryptocurrencies being involved in the mainstream world. Now, I know that the companies out there have started to accept Bitcoin, so I know that that's also been a really big push for cryptocurrencies. But having a company that is in a cryptocurrency exchange and brokerage now trade on the public markets, I feel is really going to help validate the legitimacy of cryptocurrencies as a real investment. Now, there's just a few risks here that I also wanted to quickly touch on, though, before we move on here. And that is, we just simply can't ignore the high valuation. It's something definitely worth taking into consideration, especially if this is something you were planning on making a sizable investment with. They do have competition. They're not the only player out in this field here, so that's something else to watch out for. And I think now that Coinbase has gone public, we should expect to see a few other companies go public as well. So it'll be really important for Coinbase to leverage what they do differently compared to their competitors to remain a strong performing company and still continue that very significant revenue growth. And also, as I was doing some research this morning, I did see that some exchanges are delisting Coinbase from their exchange. I think one exchange in Germany did. So that is just also something else to watch out for. Again, there are countries out there that are not a fan of cryptocurrencies, and I think that's going to be a regulatory issue that we are going to see in the future. Again, especially with them now going public, it is going to raise some of that awareness to government authorities or whatever to maybe start cracking down on the crypto world, which is something, again, that gives me a little apprehension about these investments. But I really do feel that we have such a huge opportunity here to buy into something that can dramatically change our future. Kind of like when traders first had the ability to start buying and selling stocks online without the need of going through a broker to do that. This could really change the way that people do investments. And for all we know, if everything goes smoothly for cryptocurrencies, then they could have a huge part of our future, similarly to how email kind of took over our future instead of traditional mail methods. So this is something that I'm very excited about what the future holds for this company. Personally though, as an investment, it's something that I'm approaching with very much caution, and admittedly, even as a long-term investor, this is one that I won't necessarily hesitate to pull the trigger on the sell button here if it experiences some huge volatility. So I kind of gave it away there. I did go ahead and place an order to add this to the portfolio. Let me go see if that's processed here, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so for this one, I only bought 5 shares, and that gave us a market value of around $1,500. Again, my traditional amount that I like to purchase into stocks is around $5,000, but given how I view this as a very rich valuation for this company, I do feel like we're going to see better buying opportunities down the road, and with it being down $26 so far, that kind of goes to show that we might be able to buy in at a better price in the future. So it's not one that I wanted to go all in on, and it is one that I'm, as I said earlier, approaching with a lot of caution, because this one does have a lot of hurdles that companies like Walmart, Waste Management, Apple, Cisco don't have to worry about. So this is one, again, I'm very excited for the future. I want to be a part of this future, and I get, admittedly FOMO kicked in a little bit, so I want to make sure that this was a part of my portfolio, but nothing dramatic where I have to fear it losing out or me losing a lot of money that I could have put into a better performing stock. So we have it here. If it's one you're interested in, again, just approach it with caution. It's not advice, so I can't tell you buy it or whatnot, but just make sure you do your own research and see if it's something that you feel is worth having for a long haul, because I do think it's going to be a long and bumpy ride with a position like this. Anyway, just take a look here at some of our other positions. A lot of stuff's down today, starting with Jumia, down 418, so that is not really a great start for that one. Everything else though is in the green besides Coinbase and Jumia, but they're down significantly from last week. We have Tesla only up $18. That one actually did trigger the limit order I had in there, so we do have a few additional shares now of Tesla. Blackstone up $102, so that's good to see, because I was only up a few bucks last week when we first took a look at it. VOO really being that anchor to the portfolio that I wanted it to be. Again, as you could see, that one still has the highest gain in this portfolio, so that's why I added that one to this account, because it is something that I'm going to use to offset these downtimes, and that's exactly what it's doing here. So I think this is a good example of that thought process. And lastly, we have Square up $56, so we can't complain when it's green. Of course, I wish it was as high as it was last week, where we actually had some pretty significant gains, but it is what it is. The market's been on a little bit of a rally recently, or a little bit of a downturn, so I'm just happy to see that more positions are green than red. But those are my thoughts here when it comes to Coinbase and its stock investment. Again, a company I'm very excited about, but I'd really love to hear all of your feedback about this company as well. So leave a comment below if it's something you're excited about or something you're going to stay away from for a while. Remember too, if you like this video, 5-cent donation for charity, so please consider doing that. Subscribing, 10-cent donation for charity, so this goes a long way. One of these days I'll update the chart that I have for it to keep track of it, so you can see how far we've gone with those donations. Also, remember, follow me on Instagram if you want to see what my pork butt looks like. My competition's on Saturday. I'm incredibly nervous, so I'll keep you posted for how all of that goes. All that said, though, I'm going to wrap up here, so thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're right here with me, and I really appreciate that. But I'll let you go ahead, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.